This is the archaeological tell keychain, which represents a tell or a mound that is composed of the accumulated debris of human habitation over the course of many generations. On the very bottom, you can see evidence of the very first inhabitants of this site back in the late or upper Paleolithic era or Old Stone Age. Some of the things we can see here are a discoidal lithic core. This is the stone from which flakes are removed and then later refined into stone tools. We have an Oldowan type of tool that found in sites worldwide and that had been in use for tens of thousands of years. A burin, of course. This rounded rock here is the hammerstone used to create the tools, and a couple of other evidences of animal and human habitation. Now, if we open up to this bottom layer, we now see evidence of human habitation on this site during the early or pre-pottery Neolithic or New Stone Age. Here we see a circular dwelling composed of loose stones held together by mud. Outside of the dwelling, we see a jawbone of some sort of ungulate, indication that hunting was an important part of subsistence at that time. And within the dwelling, we see evidence of the practice of intramural burial, so somebody buried within the dwelling. On the underside of the next layer, we see the artifacts that would have been found among this layer. Some of the things we see here are some more refined stone tools, microliths, used for a variety of purposes, a more refined lithic core, bullet-shaped, also known as a bullet core. This is the first little evidence of artistic expression, a little figurine, and a bone awl used probably for piercing animal hides in the creation of garments. Now the next layer was left by inhabitants during the pottery Neolithic or Upper Neolithic, so named for the one of the important inventions, which was the use of pottery, a piece of which you can see within the dwelling. The dwelling itself is now rectilinear rather than circular, and it's composed of regular mud bricks. Within the dwelling, you can see that the practice of intramural burial is still practiced in a fashion, the little skull there. And you can also see the hearth, indication of that they were cooking indoors. And outside of the dwelling, you see a little line of post holes, which is the first evidence that they were keeping domesticated animals. And here are some of the artifacts found in this layer. See again a clay figurine and some clay beads, more ceramic items. And here we see a stone scythe and a mortar and pestle, which are evidence of the practice of agriculture, which was beginning to flourish at this time, and also the impression left by some fabric, another type of technology that was advancing at the time. This next layer dates to the Bronze Age, and you can see a much more urban setting now. The houses are conjoined in the fashion of a modern city, and here we see a paved avenue, and within that avenue you can see the vague impression of ruts left by a wheel, which is one of the important inventions of this era. And within the dwelling we can see again some pottery, this time much more refined pottery, which had been thrown on a potter's wheel, the same invention turned on its side. Artifacts found within this layer are a musical instrument and a hoe and a sword made in bronze, the material for which the archaeological period is named. And more importantly, we see a little tablet here which is inscribed with cuneiform letters, the first known form of writing, written language. Now the next layer contains the remnants of a settlement from the Iron Age. And you can see that it's much more monumental. This is a city gate, and you can see the outer wall of the city is a double stone wall, a rubble-filled stone wall, and you can see the city gate flanked by a couple of animals and big paved plazas and whatnot. And artifacts here, we have a helmet. There's a cylinder seal used to kind of notarize documents, official documents. And here we have a tablet that is inscribed, this time with Phoenician letters, the type of letters from which our modern letters are descended. And then at the very top, we have the remnants at the crown of creation. There is the remnants of a theater from the classical era, 1 to 300 years BC, or 2300 or so years before present. So there you have it.